Welcome to the show, everyone, and thanks for tuning in. You're listening to Somewhere in Dreamland. If you've had an encounter, please contact me at somedreamland@gmail.com or find me on Facebook at Somewhere in Dreamland Podcast. If you're enjoying the show, please help us grow by subscribing, rating, reviewing, and sharing this episode with friends, family, and social media. Thanks again for listening.
You're about to enter a podcast filled with high strangeness, conspiracies, the paranormal, and legends from around the world with your host, Ken Mark, and brought to you by WNIP Productions. This is Somewhere in Dreamland.
Welcome back, dreamers. Tonight, my guest is Eric Freeman. Eric has put in over 20 years in the medical field and as a paranormal researcher and investigator. Along with this, he has also had his own share of paranormal experiences beginning at the age of 8. And adding to his repertoire, Eric is also the host of a very popular podcast called The Unseen Paranormal, where he chats with authors, historians, researchers, and investigators about all aspects of the paranormal. So without further ado, grab your blanket, turn down the lights, get comfy, and let's fade away into
Dreamland.
So Eric Freeman Sims. Do you go by Eric Freeman or Sims or Eric Freeman Sims? What do you go by?
Eric Freeman.
All right, I'm just going to call you. How about just Eric? How's that sound?
That's fun.
First, I want to say thank you so much for coming on here and giving me the opportunity to talk with you. I really appreciate it.
My pleasure. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, man. Yeah. Also, your last, the last episode, 2 episodes of your season, last season, the Conjuring, the true story behind the Conjuring, man, top notch. That stuff was awesome.
Yeah, she's amazing. Andrea Perrin is I love her. I'm going to be on her show in August, and she's just an amazing lady.
Yeah, I'm glad because I never heard of her, and I'm glad that I listened to that episode because the episode was awesome, and then I want to check some of her stuff out too. You know.
Yeah, her book, she ended up doing it in 3 volumes, and it is almost 1,500 pages. But the way that she writes is just beautiful, and it really takes you into the family, and you kind of get to know them throughout the books, and yeah, it's just really well written, and I had a blast talking to her.
That's awesome, man. Yeah, it sounded like you had a really good time, and she's pretty knowledgeable, man. She knows her stuff.
Yeah, she's been trying to get the real story out there for a long time, and bits and pieces have come out through different media sources over the years, and she's done probably thousands of interviews. She's been on Coast to Coast and some of those shows, but been on a lot of shows like that. But yeah, she still, especially with like the 3rd movie just coming out last week as well. I kind of timed it around that as well because a lot more people are interested in The Conjuring when the new movie comes out. So she's trying to get not just sell books, but trying to tell the real story about what really happened in that house to her family. Because she actually her family gave them permission to use their name. So when you watch that first Conjuring movie, that's really their names. She was the oldest daughter in the house. She was 12 years old when they moved in. And so, yeah, she's just trying to get that message out there. But she's kind of been in the world of the paranormal for a long time as well with UFOs and other stuff.
Yeah, that's awesome. That was a great interview, man. That was a great 2 episodes. Great.
Thank you. I could have there could have been another hour. We talked for 3 hours. And so you got to kind of condense it down somehow.
Oh, I'll bet, man. I'll bet because there's like She has so much to say too. You know, it seemed like she has just had so much to say. And I like that. So, well, hey man, how did you get your start in this world? Start me off at the beginning. Like, I know that you had an experience when you were younger, and I want to hear all about it, man.
So the first paranormal experience that I remember having when I was 8 years old, I woke up out of a dead sleep and sat straight up in the bed and looked at my door, and the door to my bedroom was open, and I saw a glowing figure of a lady. And being 8 years old, of course, it scared me. So I jumped up, flipped the light on, slammed the door. And that was the first time I remember having any paranormal experiences. And then it's just kind of snowballed from there. It's my entire life. So when I was a teenager, I started getting in, and this is, of course, long before any of the TV shows, or it was, the popular thing to do to go out and investigate locations. But we would sneak into a place about 20 minutes from our house. And it was kind of the thing to do if you were in high school around this area. Most people are just going to try to scare each other because the place has the reputation of being haunted. But me and my friends would sneak in there and search out paranormal stuff and try to have experiences to try to explain to us, if the paranormal was real or not. And that place is so haunted. It still is to this day. Unfortunately, they don't let anybody in as far as paranormal stuff, but they do historical tours and stuff. And I don't condone trespassing in any way. Back then, like I said, there was nothing else out there, so we had to kind of go seek it out ourselves. But that location is a historical home where the Battle of Franklin happened, and a huge Civil War battle. So the Battle of Franklin, I want to say it's the second bloodiest battle of the Civil War, and there are 2,500 Confederate soldiers buried on the property. But there's lots of stories over the years at that location, and I saw a lady pull the curtains back and peek her head in the window when there was nobody there. And we're talking like 3 o'clock in the morning. And then I had a ghost horse run through me.
What?
Yeah. So the way we would get on this property, there was a golf course next door, and we would park at the clubhouse for the golf course, and we would hop the fence into the cemetery and then get on the grounds that way. And between the cemetery and the actual house was probably about 150 yards. And we were walking across this field. We had been up there walking around the house. We never messed with anything, never went in the house, that type of stuff, because they had a security system. And we were just there to look around and have experiences. And so we're walking back across this field, and 2 of my friends are probably 10, 20 feet behind me. And we hear this horse galloping. And I'm turning around and looking at them, and they're like, yeah, we hear it too. And it's off to my left. And we're walking across this field about knee high, and hear this horse galloping towards me. And we hear it like make the whinny sound, and I feel this cold breeze go through me. And then me and my 2 friends behind me watch the grass move in a straight line out the right side of me. And we can still hear the horse galloping until it just kind of fades off. And they run up to me and are like, are you okay? Like, did that just go through you? And I was like, yeah, I think it did. And so that just kind of has fueled my passion for investigating. And then, of course, when the Ghost Hunters TV show came out, I became a huge fan of it. And some of the other shows, but I call myself a skeptical believer, so I don't believe in all of the TV stuff. And it's just kind of snowballed into me investigating with teams and various other aspects, researching the paranormal for sure. For many years, anything I can get my hands on book wise, on the internet, TV shows, documentaries.
Do you continue to this day to have like your own experiences?
I do. My house is haunted, has been for a long time, and I attribute it to, I believe it's something I brought home from that location I was talking about. The story of that, and the reason that I think that something followed me home, one night after me and my friends had been there, I took them home across town from where I live. And when I came back, the whole time I'm by myself in my vehicle, 4 or 5 o'clock in the morning, and I feel like just that feeling like somebody's sitting in my back seat. So I kept looking in the rearview mirror, and of course there's nobody there. I get home, it's just me and my mom that lived here at the time, and I walk down the hall to my bedroom and shut the door, and I'm getting ready to go to bed. It's, late or early, and I hear boots walk down the hall, and they stop in front of my door, and I can see the outline of the boots under the door. And then they turn around and walk back down the hallway. And ever since I've had stuff happen in my house, I've seen doors open and close at the same time. If I would have just saw it open, okay, older house, whatever. But I saw it close itself back. I've heard my name called when I'm the only person here. Heard whistling, just a whole host of things for probably the past 25 years.
That's awesome, man. Like I've had quite a few experiences myself, but that's what got me interested in this was actually a book, but then I've had experiences since then, and it's fun sometimes, and sometimes it's not so fun, isn't it?
Yeah. I had to have a come to Jesus meeting with it, because it would wake me up at 3:00 in the morning with my bed shaking.
It's a bad time.
Yeah. I at first it kind of scared me, and then I kind of got used to it. And finally I was just fed up, and it reminded me of those old, motel room beds that you put a quarter in, the whole bed would vibrate.
Yeah.
And, so that's what it felt like. It was that intense. And so I finally was just like, look, I don't care what you want. We can cohabitate. You can live in my house. We can live peacefully, but you're not going to be waking me up at 3 a.m. Because if you continue to do this, I'm going to find a way to get rid of you. And so it finally stopped. And I also told it at the same time, the other rule is don't pop up behind me in the mirror. Don't ever let me see you behind me in the mirror, because that's just weird.
Yeah.
And
that's creepy.
Yeah, not too long ago, I was standing in the bathroom and brushing my teeth, and it had this huge mirror on the wall, and I could see the one of the doors to one of the bedrooms in the hallway just out of my peripheral vision in the mirror. And I just see the shadow kind of materialize in front of the white door, and it stops for a second, like, oh no, I've been caught. And then it just shoots down the hallway. Yeah.
That's great, man. Just like a dog or a kid. Like, oops.
Yeah. Like, oh no, I did the one thing I was told not to do.
Well, you're in Tennessee, is that right?
Yeah, I live in the Nashville area.
Okay, yeah. There's a lot of cool history down there, man.
Yeah, lots of haunted locations, lots of history.
Yeah, I live just outside of Charleston, South Carolina, and same thing here, man. A lot of haunted and just crazy, weird locations here.
Yeah, I've been. I love Charleston. I used to have a friend who lived in Charleston. Unfortunately, he passed away from cancer a few years ago. But we used to come out there, and I've done the ghost tour downtown Charleston, and been to quite a few of the location. Yeah,
it's fun. Have you ever been to the jailhouse there?
I have. Yeah, that's a pretty crazy place.
It is pretty crazy. I took two of my boys there with me, and we had a good time there. They got freaked out a couple times. It was pretty fun.
If I remember correctly, they used to put prisoners in the basement and let the tide come in and drown them. Is that the same place that you're talking about?
Yeah, that's a different place. That's right outside of the wall there at Charleston. They used to put pirates and stuff down there, and they would drown them. And they also used to hang pirates over the walls there. There used to be big walls all the way around Charleston. It used to be a closed off city. And when the pirates would come in, they would round them up. They had special like a pirate task force almost. I don't know what the hell they were called, but they would round them up, and they wouldn't kill them. They'd beat the hell out of them, and then they would hang them by chains over the wall. So when the tide came in, it would just beat the hell out of them for days and eventually drown them. But they did that for a warning to the rest of the pirates,
Yeah, to stay away. Yeah. One of the coolest places I went is the aircraft carrier there. And then years later, I saw it on Ghost Hunters, and they were investigating. I'm like, I've been there.
Yeah, man. That place, you do not realize how enormous an aircraft carrier is until you're actually on an aircraft carrier. It blew my mind. But that place is really, really creepy too, man. I got a lot of weird feelings on that place, man.
Yeah, we ended up getting lost. It was we were there on a day that it wasn't very busy, and we ended up getting lost, and we ended up in the bottom of the ship, like where the actual water line is. And it was really creepy down there. And
yeah, it's cool, man. You could literally spend all day there.
Yeah, Yeah. Yeah, it's pretty cool. And then also to go into the submarine that was next door, docked as well. Pretty interesting experience. But yeah, it was kind of cool to see ghost hunters go there and investigate after I'd been there a few years earlier.
Yeah, I'll bet. So you've been in the medical field for 20 years, 20 some years, right?
Yeah, I just, I retired last year actually. After being an EMT for 14 years and being in the medical field for 20.
Awesome. Now, did being in the medical field, my wife is in the medical field also. Did you have any experiences while you were doing that?
Oh yeah. My life has been surrounded by the paranormal, not just growing up and not just in my own house, but even starting off in the medical field. I started off as a nurse tech, working nursing homes. And the first nursing home I worked at was in a town called Dixon, Tennessee, which is about 20 minutes from me. And the part of the building I worked in, I worked night shift 5 nights a week. And the part of the building I worked in was built in the late 30s, early 40s. And it had always been a nursing home. And I worked on the Alzheimer's lockdown unit. So most of the patients were bedridden. A lot of them were nonverbal. A lot of them were pretty far gone with Alzheimer's. And there are many things that occurred. And I wasn't told when I went to work there about the paranormal stuff, but it wasn't something that was hush hush either. The first experience that I had working there, you would hear, we were separated from the rest, like the newer part of the nursing home, by a big, like cafeteria style dining room, and then like physical therapy and some offices. So we were pretty far removed from the rest of the building. So you didn't really hear what was going on the other side of the building, but we would hear somebody come through the double doors if they were coming down to our end of the building. And the first thing I ever experienced there was hearing the double doors open and close by themselves. And we'd be waiting on like another nurse or somebody to come through, and nobody was ever there. And so I asked a nurse who had been working there for like 20 years. She was an older lady, and she's like, "Oh yeah, that's just normal, honey. That happens all the time. You'll see and hear some weird stuff around here." And one night, the most profound thing that ever happened to me there, probably one of the most profound paranormal experiences I've ever had. This is when I was 18 or 19, and the nurse and the other tech who I worked with were on lunch, and it's about 3:30 in the morning, and I'm the only person on the hallway, watching the patients. We had a few patients who would hit their call light, but most of them were bedridden, like I said. And so it also looked kind of like a horror movie. Like you see hospitals in a horror movie where there's only like 1 or 2 lights on in the hallway.
Right.
Because all the patients are sleeping. So just the light at the nurse's station, and the nurse's station was right beside where it teed into a big long hallway. So I get up and just gonna walk down the halls and, peek my head into the dark rooms, make sure everybody's all right. Nobody's up. Like I said, these are Alzheimer's patients. So some of them like to get out of bed and wonder.
Sure.
And I walk up to the T and I look to the left down the hallway in this big long hallway. And at the very end of the hallway, there's these double doors that go outside, and there's like a street light shining through. But I see this guy standing there who's about probably 6'5", tall, skinny, younger guy in a black suit, all black suit. He looks at me, smiles, and turns and walks into the last room on the right. And I'm like, what in the world? There should be nobody here. Like, why is there this guy at the end of the hallway? Like, it's 3 a.m. So I walk down there to see if it's a family member, or maybe it's one of the patients, and I just saw something different. So I walk down there and go into the room and turn the light on, and there's nobody there. All 4 patients are in the bed. There's nobody there. And so more to the story, I get off at 7 o'clock that next morning, and it was probably about 2 hours later, a patient in that room passed away. And I found out when I came in the next night that a lady in that room had passed away about 9 o'clock that morning. So I always call that the angel of death, because I don't have anything else. Yeah, I don't have anything else to call it. And the guy wasn't creepy. Like I said, he was a younger guy, really tall, and in a black suit. And when he smiled at me, it wasn't creepy. It was like a friendly smile. I wasn't scared. That's why I walked straight down there to see what was going on. And yeah, there's nobody in the room. Other times,
I bet that gave you the willies though when you walked in that room and nobody was there.
Yeah, it was a little creepy, especially because I was, I was there by myself. I mean, of course, all the patients are in the bed, but I'm the only one up walking around, and yeah, it was a little weird. But then at other times, I had walked in some of those rooms. In hospitals and nursing homes, a lot of them have these vent lights that are kind of like night lights that shine out into the room from the bathroom.
All right.
And we used to park the wheelchairs in front of the bathroom door at night. And sometimes we wouldn't even turn the lights on when we'd go into patient rooms to check on them. And there were multiple times that I walked into some of those rooms, and you would either see a silhouette of somebody standing in that light, and when you turn the light on, there's nobody there. Or the creepier thing that I would see sometimes is somebody sitting in one of the wheelchairs, and you can see the head and outline of head and shoulders, but when you turn the light on, of course, there's nobody there.
Whew, no way. I wouldn't like that, man.
Yeah.
Like I don't get scared easy, but I do. You know what I mean? Like inside, I'm like, nope. I turn right around and walk away. I'm knowing, like, I have no desire to investigate stuff because, not like boots on the ground investigations. I don't want to. You know what I mean? Like, because I'm the kind of guy that I'm like, if I see something like that, I'm like, nah, I'm turning right around and walking the other way. I don't even want to know. But and I've seen stuff that's creepy, but I'll walk away from it. I don't want to see it. I don't want to know what's going on.
Right. I've always been that inquisitive person, of just to prove to myself that, what I saw was real. And so I call myself a skeptical believer. So I will do everything I can to debunk something or prove it otherwise. But I've just had so many experiences throughout my life with the paranormal and high strangeness that I can't explain a lot of them.
Right. Yeah, I mean, I've had quite a few myself, and it's like, I think that's where we're different. Like, you're inquisitive, and I'm just like, nah, I'm not messing with that. But I mean, kudos to you for that. You know what I mean? Like, because I just don't have it in me. Now, if we're talking like cryptozoology stuff like that, yeah, I'm out there. I'm checking that out. But ghosts and stuff like that, nah, man, I'm good with that. I'm good. There's too many ways for that to go wonky for me,
Yeah, I guess just over the years, I've kind of become a little desensitized to it. And I just take the stance that they were once people too. And so, you have assholes in life, you're going to have assholes in death. So some of them aren't very nice. I don't believe like some of the TV shows would have you believe that, there's lots of demonic things out there. I've been investigating for many, many years and had many experiences, never ran into anything that I would call demonic. I've dealt with some nasty spirits that weren't very nice, but not anything that I was ever afraid that it would hurt me. Well,
there's some of those shows that are they're pretty good, and there are others that I can't get with, man. Okay, I'm gonna call it out, man. Ghost Adventures. I can't stand it. Yeah. I can't do it. This dude is trying to fight ghosts. Like, fist fight ghosts is how he acts. It's like, dude, come on, Like, he's weird. I don't like him, man. I don't like that dude at all.
Yeah, I'm with you. Like, to each their own. That's entertainment. And I hope, and I throughout my show, I talk about that a lot. Not specifically calling out Ghost Adventures, but them and some other shows that, it's entertainment, and people need to understand that there's a difference between paranormal investigating and going in and acting a fool like that. And I also think it's wrong on a level of being disrespectful for any spirits that are there, going in and provoking and that type stuff, because a lot of what you do as an investigator is about intention. And you go in, hooping and hollering and acting a fool. I think a lot of times you're not going to get anything anyway. And so They kind of have to put on a show. And I've been told by people I've talked to in the business, and even some of the people I've become friends with through my show, that, Ghost Adventures comes in with a script, for one, and they rarely ever deviate from what they already have planned for that location. So they already have a narrative in mind, and nothing anybody's going to say is going to change that.
I can believe that totally. But Yeah. So what other types of the paranormal field are you into? Are you are you interested in Bigfoot and UFOs and anything like that?
Yeah, kind of all aspects of the paranormal. One of the biggest ones, I've always been into Bigfoot, and I've been into aliens since I was a kid. But one of the biggest ones that I've been into for quite a while now is the what everybody calls the missing 411. The kind of weird, the weird disappearances and living close to the Smoky Mountains. There's a huge cluster out in East Tennessee in the Smoky Mountains. And my buddy Steve Stockton, I had him on not too long ago talking about that.
Yeah, I just talked to him last night. He's coming on my show here in a couple of weeks.
Yeah, he's a great guy. Me and him become friends, and he's been on my show a few times. But yeah, he just wrote a book about some of the weird disappearances, and he's doing a whole series of those from different parks all over the United States. But yeah, that stuff with David Paulides and the missing 411 is just intriguing. How there's a lot of supernatural, paranormal aspects to it, and a lot of things that are just unexplainable. People just going missing out of thin air, people going missing while they're on the phone with somebody, that type of stuff.
Yeah, I was listening to Art Bell one night, and he had Paulides on, and he had who was he? Treasure or something in Chicago. He was on the phone or left his wife that voicemail. Do you remember that?
Yeah, there's been a few. There was one guy that David Paulides talks about that he was an NFL player. He was a linebacker in the NFL, and he was on the phone. I don't know if he actually talked to his wife on the phone or he left her the voicemail, but he said that they were chasing him was one of the things he said, and he disappeared. And he was just going fishing and like canoeing down this river, going fishing, and his wife was supposed to pick him up. His wife or his brother was supposed to pick him up at the downriver at this next parking lot, and he never showed up. And then his wife got a call of him saying that somebody was chasing him. They were trying to get him, and I think they found his shoes and clothes, but I don't think they ever found him.
Wow, yeah, that. There is a lot of crazy things that happen. Henry Mccabe is the guy I'm thinking of.
I don't know if I'm familiar with that story.
Oh man, you've got to check that out, because he left this voicemail. So he was missing. I don't know if I got the story all right. He was missing, and he left a party or something. And long story short, he went missing. They ended up finding his body by a river, as they do a lot of them in those type of cases, near water. But this voicemail that he left his wife is one of the most terrifying auditory experiences I've ever heard in my whole entire life. I mean, whatever it is on that is not human. Like, the sounds that are coming off of this are not human. I don't care who tells me different. It's not human. You've got to look it up, man. It's creepy.
Yeah, they're like talking about the guys. It's mainly guys that are found in water or by water. That is a crazy phenomenon too. A lot of them disappear in the middle of a city, and they'll be at a bar or something, and then they'll end up 2-3 miles away in whatever body of water it is. And you have two different camps there. You have one from a paranormal aspect of what's happening to these people, because they're not caught on any video cameras that they should have been caught on going to the water. There's no reason for them to be in the water. And also, even though they've been missing for a month or however so long, they only drowned 2 days before. Like, their bodies are in really good shape for supposedly have been in the water for a month. And then you got the other camp that is the smiley face killer camp, where they think it's a ring of serial killers because they find these smiley faces spray painted like nearby on bridges and stuff like that.
Yeah, that's really creepy too. I just heard I just read a news article about a smiley face killer. The true crime people are really latching on to that smiley face killer thing, which is kind of cool. I think they should work together with the paranormal people. Maybe they'll get this figured out.
Yeah. And there's kind of evidence to lean both ways. With the whole thing of, them being missing for so many days, but their body's in a condition that was only in the river for a day or two. That kind of lends evidence that maybe somebody held them captive before they actually, killed them. Or, it also can lend itself to the paranormal as well. Very interesting cases. The missing 411 stuff is definitely interesting. One of the most famous ones that David Paulides talks about, Steve Stockton talks about, happened in the Smoky Mountains. Dennis Martin, back in the 70s, when he went missing, he was 5 or 6 years old, and his dad and grandfather and his brother went camping in the Smoky Mountains, and they were camping next to another family who had kids around the same age as him and his brother, and so they were playing hide and seek, and Dennis went behind a tree, and his father recalls seeing him go behind this tree and said, okay, well, that's where Dennis is hiding or whatever, and he just disappeared in thin air. And all the other kids were like, we don't know what happened to him. We don't know where he went. He just went behind that tree and was never seen again. And they never really found any evidence. And another interesting part about that story is, like a mile down the mountain, there was another family camping, and the kids pointed up on the side of a mountain off in the distance, and they said, look, Dad, there's a bear. And the dad looked, and he said it didn't look like a bear. It looked like a hairy man carrying something under its arm up the side of the mountain. He described it more like a Bigfoot carrying something that had colors to it. So they were thinking that maybe, I guess some people would say that maybe Bigfoot kidnapped Dennis Martin.
There's lots of stories out there of Bigfoot taking kids, or kids moving mysteriously from one place to like 20 miles down the road, say, and saying that a nice bear picked them up and kept them warm, and weird stuff, Yeah.
There's another story of a guy from Canada who went missing in the woods, and he showed up like 1,500 miles away in California, and he had a haircut. He had a fresh haircut, had new clothes on, and had no recollection of how he got there. But he disappeared in the woods in Canada.
Wow, that's insane. I think I've actually heard that one. I can't remember that guy's name. That's a cool story, though. Have you ever heard of? So this kind of happens not just here, too. It happens like all over the place. But I don't think we've gotten as far as putting it all together everywhere. Because have you ever heard of the Zygmunt Adamski case?
I believe so.
Yeah, it happened over in the UK. So he went out for, I forget, he went down to the store to get some potatoes or something one day, and before dinner, and went missing, and was discovered 20 miles away from his home several days later. I can't remember if it was a week or what, on top of a coal chute, on top of a big pile of coal, under a coal chute, and first of all, they couldn't figure out how he got up there. He had burns on his neck and all kinds of weird goo around it. And according to the coroner, he'd only been dead for like 2 hours or something.
Yeah,
just weird stuff.
Yeah, and the miners reported that they didn't notice him until when they first found him.
Yeah,
like he just appeared there. Like they didn't. Like there were people there working the mine that never saw anybody bring him and dump his body there. Yeah, you need that stuff.
Yeah, and there's all kinds of weird theories out there, like he was having an affair, and they said he had a heart attack. That's what he died of. But he was having an affair, and maybe that happened during one of his exploits on his affair, and whoever he was having an affair with drug his body up there. But I can't see a woman dragging this guy's body up on top of a coal chute in front of everybody. It doesn't make any sense, But that's what's really intriguing about these cases is a lot of the evidence doesn't match up even when they are found.
Yeah, and a lot of the strange circumstances go along with it. Like people, taking their shoes off and people taking their clothes off and stuff like that, or them finding pieces of clothing but never finding bodies or anything like that. One of the missing 411 cases, they ended up finding the kid's skull, and I forget how old the kid was, but they had found articles of clothing down the side of this mountain, and it was all these big boulders that like a 5-6 year old kid could not climb these big sharp boulders. 2 miles up the side of this mountain where they actually ended up finding a skull. And it was kind of impossible for even a mountain lion or a bear or something they just wouldn't have climbed up the side of this rocky, with all these rocks sliding down and that type of stuff. So yeah, some weird things going on. And the more that I talk to, and the more that I research, and the more people that I talk to in the paranormal, the more it seems to me like it's all connected between everything in the paranormal. I don't know if I'd put like Bigfoot in the camp of the paranormal. I know some people do. Some people in the UFO community put Bigfoot, in the UFO community. I'd put Bigfoot more as a cryptid. More than likely is probably a flesh and blood animal we've never discovered. But a lot of the paranormal stuff, the weird disappearances and that type of stuff, I think it's all connected in some way that we just don't understand.
Yeah, my brother-in-law, he's diehard hiker. He's hiked almost the entire Appalachian Trail. He's done the Sierra Nevadas. He's done all kinds of hiking. And I was telling him about some of the missing 411 cases when he was here the last time. And he's like, well, your stories made me think about hiking by myself now. Because he does this all by himself. I mean, it's just insane,
Yeah. Yeah. And that's like David Paulides says, take a tracker and a personal tracker and GPS and take a gun with you, when you go out into the wilderness by yourself. Because you never know. I mean, whether it's something that's a physical threat or not, be prepared. And if you have one of those personal locator beacons on your person, that can at least even with something, paranormal, it can help maybe explain it a little more. Another weird thing with some of the people who have been found alive, they generally don't talk about what happened to them. A lot of them, and a lot of the kids don't remember, or a lot of the kids' cases, the kids are somehow mentally deficient, whether they're autistic or have Down syndrome or some sort of mental disability. And so it's like they got picked because of that, so they can't tell what happened to them.
Yeah, even a lot of the adults have some sort of disability, isn't that right?
Some of them that are found, and a lot of them just seem like they're traumatized and don't care to talk about what happened to them.
I know there are a lot of theories out there surrounding that, from everything from aliens to Bigfoot to slipping into a time warp, which is something that I find super interesting. What do you think? What are your thoughts right now on what's going on with these people?
I think that it's some sort of either time warp or portal type deal that we just don't understand. I think the stuff that they're doing, like on Skinwalker Ranch with portals and that type of stuff that's been witnessed out there, I think probably connects to some of these cases. Maybe not all. Probably some of them can be explained by a kidnapper or serial killer or something like that, and there's just no evidence. Nobody's ever found the body because of these vast expansive forests, But I think, some of the stuff, especially these people, these kids that end up, 14, 15 miles away from where they disappeared, and there's no way a 2-year-old walked that far in a couple of days. Yeah, some sort of portal, time warp, wormhole type phenomenon that, we just don't understand.
Yeah, that stuff is fascinating, man. I'll tell you, it really is fascinating.
Yeah, the time slip stuff too fascinates me. I actually have a friend who, she told the story on the show. One of the people that I investigate with, she's a member of Medics for Paranormal, and she had a time slip at a place called Thomas House in Red Bowling Springs, Tennessee. And she went to the restroom, and when she came out, she couldn't find anybody. She couldn't find the people she was investigating with. She couldn't find some of the other guests that were there at the Thomas House. She couldn't find anybody, the owners, nobody. And this went on for about 30 minutes. She called Lee, her investigating partner, and text him, but his phone, he never got the text. He never had a missed call, nothing from her. She did end up calling her boyfriend, who she talked to, and kind of calmed her down because she was starting to have a panic attack, and she was actually fixing to get in her car and leave. And she finally went back inside after she'd been outside looking for them and found them. But for 30 minutes, she couldn't find them, and she thought they were playing a joke on her. So she was mad when she first found them. And they were like, we've just been investigating. Like, we've been here in the Thomas house. Like, we haven't gone anywhere. And so the few times I've heard that story, we've talked about it, and it sounds like maybe she wasn't the one that had the time slip. Like, maybe they did and didn't realize it.
Ooh.
You know what I'm saying? Because when she went to their room where they were staying at the Thomas house is a bed and breakfast. So it's got, they've got like 15 rooms there now. When she went to the room, like all their equipment and stuff was there, but they weren't. And she couldn't find them anywhere. But she called her boyfriend and fine. But the guy that Lee's phone, who she called, he never got her text message or missed call. So I put a theory to them. Maybe Lee and the other people were in the time slip and Paula was outside of it, and that's why she couldn't see them or find them.
Yeah, that makes sense. That stuff is just, it's cool, man. I've heard all kinds of crazy time slip stories, and they're a lot of fun.
Yeah, the time slip stuff, and I think that's where you get into the portals and that type of stuff, and even physics is starting to come and be able to prove through experiments and stuff that we have multiple dimensions. And so what is there to say that you couldn't cross over between the two of them sometimes? And that could explain the portals and the time slips. And yeah, there's lots of interesting stories out there about time slips, but to actually know somebody who kind of experienced one is just intriguing.
Yeah, they're coming along with that multiverse theory too. I mean, like there's multiple universes all coinciding all together, and that could be, like you said, another big thing right there.
Yeah. There's a few people doing research into the time slip stuff. It's not in the paranormal world, it's not as big, of course, as Bigfoot or ghost and that type of stuff, but there are a few people doing some good investigating on time slips. And Nick Groff, who used to be on Ghost Adventures, he actually put forth an interesting theory in his new series. He went to some of the same locations that he had been to before, and at one of the locations he had heard his name on an EVP, and his theory was that the EVP that he heard of his name was just actually him saying his name the time he was there before.
Huh.
So he just left, whether he left an imprint on the environment or there was some sort of time slip that actually the second and third time he went there, he was actually talking to himself when he was there the first time.
Got you. That's interesting. Well, that kind of goes along with the theory. There are people that theorize that ghosts aren't really dead people as we think of them. There are absolutely spirits wandering around, but ghosts that we see, like these shadow creatures and things like that, are actually just people from another dimension or universe that are crossing over, and we can just see them at that point.
Yeah. Mike Ricksecker has done a lot of research on the shadow people phenomenon, and that's one of the theories he kind of dives into are those interdimensional beings. He believes that some of them could be interdimensional beings, and some of them are just earthbound spirits. But the way that we see them is different because we all vibrate at different frequencies.
Yeah,
and so you can have 10 people in the same room and have a full body apparition appear, but all 10 people have a different experience of that. So some people might see it as a shadow, some people might see it as a mist, some people might see it as a full body apparition, like a real person. And his theory is that we all vibrate on a slightly different frequency, and so different people experience the paranormal differently because of that. And that could also be why some people don't ever see shadow people, where other people, they see shadow people all the time.
I guess any theory at this point isn't incorrect or correct because we just don't know, But they're fascinating to hear all of them. People think that same way about aliens, that aliens are just us visiting from the future, trying to figure something out, which I find a very interesting theory, actually, because kind of makes sense to me in our evolutionary chain, if you're going to go that route, even to the cavemen, right? That we were short, stockier, and we've gotten thinner and taller and bigger heads, and sooner or later we might evolve into a thinner, spindly looking with a bigger head type of creature. I mean, it's just, there's so many theories out there. It's fascinating.
Yeah, one of the reasons that I would think that the one of the reasons I like the vibration theory of us all vibrating on different frequencies is, if you think everything around us is vibrating, so everything is on a frequency, everything is on a wavelength. So light, sound, everything is on a wavelength, and we can measure those things, but this might be something that we just can't measure at this point in time with what our capabilities. And also, it goes to what physicists and astrophysicists call the string theory. And if you've ever heard it, it's like we're on a vibrating string. Like there's different strings, and each string is a different dimension, and they each vibrate slightly differently. And so that's why sometimes the vibrations match up, and sometimes the two can kind of collide a little bit.
I mean, that is a great theory. It really makes sense if you think of it that way. I mean, it really does. It's kind of a neat and very thought out theory.
Yeah. He's been doing research on shadow people for a long, long time, and he starting with experience that he had when he was 8 with shadow people, and his hypothesis, his question was, why do some people see shadow people and some people don't? And so that's kind of where he evolved that theory from other aspects of other researchers and of research of his own.
Yeah, that's good stuff. You ever seen a shadow person?
I have not seen a full-on shadow person. I have seen shadows out of the corner of my eye, but not anything that I would call like the Hat Man or that type of stuff that people, the specific phenomena of shadow figures of, being in your bedroom. And the biggest one, I think, is the Hat Man that people talk about, because he looks like he's wearing a fedora. And it's like a fedora and a trench coat, which is interesting because if it's a, dark shadow, it's interesting that people recall that type of detail.
So I got a great story about that. Oh man, my oldest son now, he's going to be 20. When he was probably 7 or 8, I worked late nights and I would sleep until 9 or 10. He'd turn on the TV, get himself up in the summertime, and actually, he was probably about 6 or 7 when this happened. He'd turn the TV on. I'd get to sleep until 9, 10 o'clock. It was awesome, get up. And we had a house we'd lived in, and it was pretty active. There was all kinds of weird stuff that happened in the house. And by active, I mean, I never really seen anything, but I'm good at like sensing stuff, and we'd have stuff go missing and little things like that, And one morning I got up and I walked out and said, "How you doing this morning?" and talked to him for a minute, and he was watching SpongeBob, and he said, "Oh, I'm good." He goes, "Dad, let me ask you a question." And I said, "Yeah, what's up?" And he goes, "Who was that man standing by your bed?" And I said, "What do you mean?" He goes, "There's a man standing right by your bed. He had a hat on, and he was real dark, and I couldn't see his face." And I said, "Are you messing with me?" And he's like, "No." He was standing there. I said, "What kind of hat did he have?" He goes, "A weird hat. It looked like a cowboy hat." And I'm like, "That's weird." And this was before I knew anything about Hat Man, obviously. And like, "How long did he stand there?" And he said, "Well, I got up really early this morning, and he was there until right before you woke up. He just stared at you the whole time." And I'm like, "Oh my goodness, man." Like, don't tell me that. So, but yeah, that's a cool little story that I have.
Yeah, that is weird. Yeah, for your son to just be nonchalant about it.
Yeah, it's funny. He was a weird kid anyhow. He always had weird things happen around him. So, all kinds of weird stuff. But yeah, that morning that scared me, man. It scared me good.
Yeah, I think one of the things I've talked about a lot on my show too with a lot of guests is, and it's kind of seems to be the general consensus in the paranormal. When I started my show, I thought that I was the only person that kind of had this idea. Now I've found that many people in the paranormal world have this idea, but that kids in general are just born inherently sensitive to the paranormal, whether it be sensing it, seeing it, that type of experiencing it. And a lot of parents teach the kids out of it and say, well, it's just your imagination, and the kids just kind of block it off.
I agree 100% with that. I mean, there are times when, parents do that because I think they're scared themselves of what's going on.
Oh yeah. Yeah. Or they don't understand it. And so I think when a lot of kids have that imaginary friend, I think it's not an imaginary friend. I think it's, something paranormal, and the parents just, tell them, oh, that's just your imagination. When it's really not, they're actually seeing something.
Yeah. And I think deep down inside, sometimes the parents know that something's going on. Like we were talking about, and they just don't know what else to do about it or say about it. So
right. I was lucky to grow up in a family that the paranormal was never a taboo subject. I didn't grow up in a particularly religious family, so it was very open, talked about subject. My family talked about having their own experiences. I mean, I remember hearing those stories when I was a little kid about a house that they lived in when they first moved down here. From Indiana. My family's from Indiana, and I was adopted by my grandparents, so I was their 10th kid to raise. So I heard lots of stories from my 9 aunts and uncles about this house they moved into. This older lady would come and tuck them in at night, and she was a ghost. They didn't know this lady. It scared the crap out of them, but she would come sit down on the bed and kind of pull the covers up to their neck and kind of tuck them in, and they saw her a lot. They've got many stories, but I grew up hearing those stories and hearing other paranormal stories. So I was never taught out of it. I was never, shied away from it. It was always an open subject.
Yeah, I wasn't either. I grew up in a Catholic family. Church Wednesday, church Saturday, church Sunday. But we would have our priest from our church would come over every Sunday evening and eat dinner with us. So I got to pick his brain on a lot of stuff, which was pretty unique situation, I think. And, I would straight up ask him, because I was interested in this stuff, are ghosts real? And what do you think about this? And what do you think about that? And he always said, yes, ghosts are real. They are real. Demons are real. Ghosts are real. It's all real. And I always thought that was strange when I was a kid coming from him. But later on as an adult, I'm like, I mean, the guy gave me the lowdown, the real answer, Could have easily told me something else, but yeah, it gave me a little bit more validity to my thoughts.
Yeah. And it's nice to have that validation. I think for a long time, what kind of drove me to investigate and research paranormal was to get that validation, because like I said, before when I started seeking out the paranormal, there was no TV shows or anything like that, so you really didn't have any validation, and if you would mention stuff to other people, they just laughed it off and looked at you like you're weird. So now for our society to be so open to the paranormal, kind of have to, shows like Ghost Adventures, kind of a double-edged sword, that they make people more aware of the paranormal and get people more talking about the paranormal, whether they're, ridiculous or not. But yeah, 50 years ago, talking about seeing spirits and that type of stuff would have got you put in a straitjacket and, put in the mental institution. But, yeah, it's nice to get to talk to people and people be so open about their experiences, and to get that validation and say, well, I had, like we're talking about right now, like, I was talking about the Hat Man, and you're like, oh, hey, I have this, Hat Man story. And there's many times that I'll be out in public and people come up to me and be like, I don't believe in ghosts, but here's my ghost story. And I always find that interesting, because it's like, okay, well, you don't believe in ghosts, but you want to tell me your story. And I think they start off their sentence, they start off that with, I don't believe in ghosts, because they're trying to gauge whether I believe them or not.
Right.
And they don't want to come off as crazy or kooky or, conspiracy theorists, that type stuff right off the bat. And I find most of those people, when I, start asking questions and kind of, they see that I'm interested in hearing their story and interested in kind of diving deeper, they get a little more open about the subject and want to talk more about it.
Yeah, people are funny like that. My wife is that way. Like, she tries to rationalize everything. You know what I mean? Anything that is weird or strange, bizarre, she tries to rationalize it, which is a good thing, but to the point where, oh, come on, that isn't real. What that was this. But then I had a unique experience last week that I'll share with you later. And she says to me, first thing she says to me is, don't you be bringing stuff like that into my house. Don't bring that stuff into the house. Well, if you don't believe in it, then why are you telling me not to bring it into the house,
Right.
So let me ask you this question before I tell you my story. Have you ever had anything weird happen to you during a podcast or after editing a podcast? Anything like that after you spoke with a certain person?
There have been some audio anomalies that I can't explain in nothing like a full-blown EVP or anything that's come across in my recording, but definitely some weird anomalies, noises and stuff like that in the audio that I didn't hear when we were recording. It didn't come from my guest, stuff like that. There's weird stuff happens in my house all the time, so I don't necessarily connect that to, me doing an interview with a guest or editing. But I've had some weird audio anomalies show up when I'm going back and listening and editing, and I'm like, where did that come from? I didn't hear that noise. It would have been something I would have taken a mental note of, hey, I need to edit this out if it was something that came from me or my guest. But right. Yeah, I've had some weird, and then also sometimes I'll have guests. I've had a few guests who'll tell me that whenever they tell a certain story they're fixing to tell me, that things happen with audio and something always happens during the interview. And I've had a few of them when they started to tell a story cut out or, stuff like that, and they'll have to start the story over or something. So that's kind of interesting that they kind of warn me beforehand and then it actually happens. And it's not, it's not something that they're doing. It's something like, their cell phone cuts out. Well, they don't have any control over that, Right. Yeah, I had a guest a couple of weeks ago named Patrick Meekin, and he's from Ohio, from Holmes County. He wrote a couple of really good books. Yeah, I've read his book.
Okay, yeah. So I'm originally from Ohio, so it's kind of my neck of the woods type thing, and it has to do with the Amish, which was interesting. And they put a powwow on him basically at the house that he built, and so I'm editing our audio, and he's talking about this house and getting it out there and known, and he just with the history of the house and whatever. And then I go to say something, and right before I say something over top of me says Jesus, and then as I'm speaking it says Christ. And
wow.
like it freaked me out. Okay, I was editing this Friday night. So I have a man cave in my garage. I'm talking a full-on 8-foot by 4-foot bar, a couple of 50-inch TVs, a recliner. It's all decked out, man. And I'm out there, and it's raining, and it's about 2 a.m, and I'm editing that, and I heard that, and I'm like, what was that? So I immediately isolated everything else, took that track out, and I could still hear it. And I'm like, oh my gosh. So, clear as a bell, you can hear it.
Wow.
So I sent this to him at like 2:30 in the morning. Well, first of all, I closed everything down and went inside because, like I said, I'm a big sissy. and I sent this to him, and I'm like, hey, you got to check this out. And he's like, yeah, I probably should have told you that weird things happen whenever I do interviews and things like that. He says all kinds of weird stuff happens. And then he sent me a message last night. He said, or the night before, he said, he had a live interview, and the guy had paranormal activity going on during the interview behind him. They caught it on camera, I guess.
Wow.
Yeah, so it's like, dude, there's still stuff going on there, Patrick. I don't know what to tell you, man. Like, maybe not to you, but everybody you come in contact with. So.
Yeah, maybe it's something continuing to not want him to do what he's doing.
Yeah, it could be. I mean, it's nothing that I felt threatened by or anything like that, and
right.
But it definitely gave me the old goosebumps.
Yeah. It's weird. After working in emergency medicine for 14 years, I don't get that adrenaline anymore. I don't get that. Even when I go out and investigate and have something happen, I get excited, and I get pumped up about it, but I don't get that shot of adrenaline from just being an adrenaline junkie on the ambulance for so many years.
Yeah, for sure. So what are your thoughts on on aliens? I know you said you've been looking into aliens and since you were a kid. What are your thoughts on all that stuff? Abduction and aliens, and where are you at with that?
Some of it I subscribe to more than others. The abduction stuff, not as much. I don't think it's out of the realm of possibility. I've just never seen anything that kind of blew me away as far as evidence of abduction, and some of the people's stories, are just interesting, just odd, and you can kind of blow holes in them. I guess that's kind of with anything in the paranormal, but yeah, I'm not a big believer on the abduction thing. But as far as UFOs, yeah, we just, our universe is too vast. Even our one universe, let alone multiverse, but it's too vast. And if you have a civilization out there that is advanced enough beyond us to travel through space, then, you got to think that they would want to seek out another planet with life on it as well. And also, there's some interesting theories out there about aliens having a hand in our genetics too, with us sharing like 98% of our DNA with chimpanzees, but chimpanzees have never evolved past what they are. I definitely believe in evolution. I mean, you can see evolution at work with different animals, but you would think that as far back in the fossil record as we can go with the chimpanzee, if that's where we evolved from, like an ape species, then with only 2% of the DNA being separate between us and chimpanzees, that they would have some point in time over the past billion years or however long, millions of years they've been on the planet, have evolved further than what they are now. Right. And, so it kind of lends the thought that maybe, there was aliens that showed up and said, oh, let's just mess with the genetics, a little bit. Let's just tweak it a little bit, make them a little smarter. And, maybe that's where you get humans from, because there's a definite, from what we know scientifically, there's a definite line where the tree starts to diverge into all these different humanoids. You have, of course, Cro-Magnon man, and you have, the cavemen, that type of stuff. But the tree definitely branches off, but humans, us, Homo sapiens, are the ones that dominate it out. But now they're finding out that we actually are probably a split between two of the species, Homo erectus and I forget what the other species is, that combined they cross-mated and created Homo erectus, which is what we are today. But there's also way too many sightings out there of unidentified craft and stuff like that, and too many stories of people witnessing these craft and these phenomena for it not to be something to it. And most of these people, they have everything to lose and they have nothing to gain from telling their stories and citing these things. A lot of them come out, especially stories from back in the 1950s and 60s. The people called them crazy and they lost their livelihoods because they come out with their story. And so, yeah, a lot of these people have nothing to gain from coming out and telling their story. So, yeah, I think there's a lot of validity that we're being visited. I found the TikTok video and those things very interesting, and I'm very interested to see what comes out here in the next couple of weeks from the government, because they're supposed to be disclosing a lot more information on their investigations into the unidentified aerial phenomena.
Yeah, I think they're going to give us little bits and pieces, and We'll never know the full story, of course, but like you said, I'm interested as well to see what they're gonna tell us next.
Yeah. I mean, I've dove into the subject with one guest so far on my show. It's just I have a hard time with the conspiracy theory stuff that goes along with aliens. I'm not a big conspiracy theory person in general, so it's just finding the right guest to have on, to approach the subject in the right way. And Warren the Juice, who I had on a while back, he was a great guest to talk to about it. He comes from a scientific standpoint at all the stories that he put in his book that he wrote, and yeah, everything that he put in there was as scientific, factual based, provable as possible. So I listen to those type people like him and Ryan Sprague, who does Somewhere in the Skies podcast, and Jeremy Corbell, who's done some excellent documentaries.
Oh, yeah.
And George Knapp is also a great source. Those people are very level-headed, very grounded when they approach the UFO subject and aliens, and very fact-based. And so I kind of follow them and what's going on with the alien stuff.
I find it funny that with this disclosure thing, we kind of got everybody sitting out there waiting for the government to tell us that it's real, when most of us already have all the evidence in front of us to say that, to make up our own minds about it being real or not, And I just think it's funny that we're waiting on confirmation from the government to say, hey, the government says it's real.
Yeah. I think what I'm waiting on with that is because it seems a lot of these unidentified objects take interest around the military, our military, and military all over the world. So that's where my interest lies from the government. I don't need the government to tell me that it's real. I believe that it's real, but I think because you have all these stories of these vehicles, extraterrestrial vehicles, around nuclear sites and around military activity, like the Tic Tac videos were out over the Pacific Ocean off of Catalina Island in California. That's where those videos were taken by the fighter jets, and they scrambled those jets from the aircraft carrier. They were actually doing maneuvers out there, training maneuvers when this happened. And so a lot of that stuff centers around the military. And so also I think the government has equipment and technology that is far beyond anything that me or you or any of the people I even mentioned that dive into the subject have access to. So I think that's where a lot of the intrigue comes from, to hear from the government, is because of those capabilities.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think the UFO phenomena goes back way, way, way far, to be honest with you. Like, I mean, there's proof of it in cave paintings, and if you interpret it that way, and even in the Bible. I mean, there's clear pictures of flying saucers in the Bible, and that intrigues me. There's something there, something to it.
Yeah, and there's even old Renaissance paintings that have, UFO, like, spacecraft in the background, just this subtle. Yeah. And then like you were saying with the Bible with, chariots of fire, as it talks about in the Bible and things like that. Yeah. It seems very plausible that, I don't like the show. I'm going to use the term, I don't like the show, but Ancient Aliens. I think some of the points they make, and some of the, the hieroglyphics and things like that they bring to light, I think is really interesting. I think they blow it way out of proportion on that show, but,
agreed.
And the one dude, his hair just gets crazier and crazier.
Giorgio.
Yeah.
And he gets tanner and tanner every episode.
Yeah. But I think some of that stuff, like in the Aztec and the Mayans and some of the imagery that they found carved in some of the ruins, is you can't explain it any other way. There's lots of things in the paranormal that you can call pareidolia. And for people who don't know, pareidolia is just the way that your brain makes sense of the world. It's like when you look at a cloud and see a face in the cloud or a shape in the cloud. your brain is making sense of what it can't make sense of. And so you can stare at, static on a TV and see shapes and stuff in it. And that's just your brain making sense of the world the best way it can. But the hieroglyphics in Egypt and the imagery and with the Aztecs and that type of stuff, you're looking at a clear picture. And like you were saying, some of the cave drawings and stuff, you're looking at a clear picture that obviously somebody drew, and you're not just interpreting what you see. It says you're seeing the same thing other people are seeing.
Yeah, it's fascinating, man. That's a deep field too. And I know you don't get into the conspiracy part of it, but I like listening to all of it, man. Some of it entertains me and some of it has me scratching my head,
Yeah.
I like a lot of it. So
yeah. I actually saw a UFO. I've had my own UFO experience. Me and my best friend, about 10 years ago, we're driving across town to his mom's, and we see this big orb of light, big, bright light up in the sky, out the windshield. And my friend looks at me, he's like, "Are you seeing that?" And we watched it for about 15 seconds, and then it just poof, like it zoomed off so fast that it just disappeared. And when I was looking at it, like when we were looking at it through the windshield, it was about the size of a golf ball, but you could tell it was way far up in the sky, but it was really bright. And it just, in an instant it was there, and the next instant it would just flew off and was gone. Like within a second it was gone. Yeah.
We had one in the neighborhood here. February-ish. One of our neighbors, one street over, started posting pictures on our community Facebook page, and she's like, "You guys aren't going to believe this. There's a UFO right in my backyard." This thing, it was a triangle-shaped craft, and she has really good pictures of it. It looked what appeared to be 3 lights in it, at the ends of the points.
Yeah.
And she said that it was close. It was close to her. She said you could. She said it was just sitting there for about 15 minutes. Wow. And she said all of a sudden, no noise, no anything. All of a sudden, all 3 points of light, split off into separate directions and took off. And I was like, man, I was sitting in my garage that night. I missed the whole damn thing. Like, I want to see that. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like, I missed the whole thing.
Yeah. Next time, call somebody.
That's what I said. Next time, you got to pick up that phone, man. Can't just let me hang. But, well, hey, Eric, it was awesome talking with you, man. I'm going to wrap it up. Can you tell everybody where they can find your podcast and contact you if they want to?
Yeah, they can contact me at unseenparanormalpodcast@gmail.com. You can find my podcast on unseenparanormalpodcast.com or Spotify, Google, Apple, anywhere you find podcasts. I am there. Podcast or music, anywhere you find music, you can find my podcast. I'm all over. Also on Facebook, the Unseen Paranormal Podcast Lounge, and on Instagram and Twitter.
Awesome, man. Hey, I appreciate you coming on, man. I really do. And thank you very much, man.
Yeah, Ken, thanks for having me, buddy.
Absolutely. Hey, good night, man.
Have a good night.
Well, that about does it for Dreamland tonight, dreamers. If you like the show, please remember to hit the subscribe button and feel free to leave us a review. Thanks again for listening, and good night.